It is a Monday morning, or perhaps the 1st of January. You stand in front of the bathroom mirror, the harsh white light exposing the exhaustion beneath your eyes, and you make the same promise you have made 100 times before. Today is the day everything changes. You are going to wake up at 5 a.m. You are going to train like an athlete. You are going to read 50 pages a day. You are going to stop scrolling, stop wasting time, and finally become the person you know you have the potential to be. For exactly 4 days, it works. You are riding a massive wave of inspiration. You feel practically unstoppable. But then Thursday arrives. It is raining outside. The sky is a heavy, depressive gray. You had an exhausting, confrontational day at work. Your mental battery is completely drained. The alarm goes off. You negotiate with reality. Just 5 more minutes. I'll go twice as hard tomorrow. You hit snooze. You skip the gym. You order takeout instead of cooking the healthy meal sitting in your fridge. And by Friday night, the illusion has entirely shattered. You are right back exactly where you started, staring at the ceiling in the dark, feeling that familiar, crushing weight of self-hatred. Most people experience this exact cycle dozens of times a year, and when they fail, they immediately blame their character. They think their problem is laziness. They think they lack discipline. They look at successful people and assume they are fundamentally broken, missing some genetic trait of willpower that everyone else seems to possess. They aren't. You aren't. The real problem is much deeper and entirely misunderstood. Look at the modern fitness industry. Commercial gyms do not build their business models on your success. They build their empires on this exact psychological failure. They sell thousands of memberships in January, knowing with statistical certainty that by the middle of February, 80% of those people will never walk through the glass doors again. If everyone who bought a gym membership actually showed up, the building would violate fire codes. They are banking on a singular, tragic flaw in human psychology. We depend on motivation for actions that should depend on identity. We live in an era of unprecedented hyperstimulation. Welcome to the dopamine economy of 2026, a world designed by thousands of engineers whose only job is to make comfort and distraction utterly frictionless. Food arrives at your door in a tap. Entertainment is infinite and tailored to your deepest psychological triggers. And when you attempt to rely on temporary surges of motivation to fight against a world engineered for instant gratification, you will always lose. Because motivation is just a feeling, and feelings, by their very biological nature, are designed to fade. Motivation is a spike in adrenaline. It is a sugar rush. You cannot build a foundation on a sugar rush. Relying on motivation to change your life is like trying to sail across the ocean by blowing on the sails yourself. It requires exhausting, constant effort, and the moment you run out of breath, you are dead in the water. Today, we are not talking about how to get motivated. Motivation is the disease, not the cure. We are dissecting the core philosophy of Atomic Habits by James Clear. But this is not just a summary about how to do more push-ups or organize your desk. This is a masterclass in identity transformation. It is the profound realization that a meaningful, peaceful life is never built through massive, exhausting, dramatic changes. It is built through tiny, almost invisible actions, protected fiercely and repeated quietly over time. This brings us to the most uncomfortable, unacknowledged truth about human behavior. Most people fail to change their lives because they are attempting to change their outcomes without ever addressing their internal self-perception. They are trying to install new, high-performance software while operating on a fundamentally broken, virus-ridden operating system. Think about how modern society teaches us to set goals. We are told to fixate on the finish line. We say, I want to read more. I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to make $1 million. These are purely outcome-based desires. But here's the psychological trap. Behavior that does not align with your deepest subconscious identity will never, ever last. Your brain is a meaning-making machine. It craves consistency. If there is a mismatch between who you believe you are and what you are doing, your brain will subconsciously sabotage your actions to return you to your baseline identity. To understand this, consider a brilliant real-life example. Imagine two people who are both desperately trying to quit smoking. They are at a party, and someone offers them a cigarette. The first person shakes their head and says, "No thanks, I'm trying to quit." It sounds perfectly reasonable, but hidden underneath those words is a dangerous belief. I am still a smoker, trying very hard to become something else. They are relying entirely on willpower, hoping their behavior changes while carrying the exact same identity they have always believed. Now, a few minutes later, someone offers a cigarette to the second person, and they calmly reply, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." It is only a tiny difference, just a few syllables, but psychologically, it is an entirely different universe. Smoking is no longer part of their identity. It is a past life. They do not need willpower to reject the cigarette, because smoking is simply not something they do anymore. This principle dictates your entire reality. If you secretly believe you are disorganized, no productivity app will save you. You will abandon it within days. If you subconsciously view yourself as a procrastinator, no morning routine will stick. You will always find a way to waste time, because the human mind will bend reality to match what it believes is true. So what is the alternative? Identity-based habits. Instead of obsessing over the outcome, you obsess over the type of person who could achieve that outcome. Instead of saying, I want to read, the shift becomes, I am a reader. Instead of, I want to run a marathon, the shift becomes, I am someone who trains. Instead of, I want to write a book, the shift becomes, I am a writer. But you cannot simply stand in front of a mirror and repeat affirmations. Your brain requires proof. Every single action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. No single action transforms you overnight. Reading one page does not instantly make you an intellectual scholar. Going for a 5-minute walk does not make you an Olympian. But as the votes quietly build up, day after day, week after week, the evidence becomes undeniable. This is why so many people relapse after a month of hard work. They force themselves to the gym through sheer willpower, but internally, they still view themselves as an unhealthy person suffering through exercise. Eventually, the willpower runs dry. The cognitive dissonance becomes unbearable, and the old identity forcefully reclaims control. True behavior change is identity change. When you read, you are not simply completing a habit. You are slowly, deliberately, convincing your own mind of who you are becoming. If identity is the operating system, then habits are the individual lines of code. To understand why we constantly sabotage ourselves, we must stop looking at motivation and start looking directly at the cold, hard neurology of human behavior. Every single habit in your life, from brushing your teeth to biting your nails to doom scrolling at 2 in the morning, follows the exact same 4-step neurological loop. Cue, craving, response, reward. To understand how terrifyingly powerful this loop truly is, we don't need abstract theory. We can look at one of the most shocking psychological events of the 20th century. During the Vietnam War, the United States government faced an unprecedented crisis. Over 20% of American soldiers stationed in Vietnam had developed severe heroin addictions. The drug was cheap, highly accessible, and it offered immediate chemical escape from the unbearable horrors of war. The government panicked. They expected hundreds of thousands of addicted soldiers to return home, flooding America with crime, overdoses, and social collapse. Specialized task forces were created. Psychiatrists prepared for disaster. But then, something unbelievable happened. When the soldiers returned home to the United States, 9 out of 10 soldiers eliminated their heroin addiction almost overnight. No massive rehab programs, no years of therapy, no superhuman willpower. The addiction simply vanished. Why? Because their environment changed entirely. In Vietnam, the cues were everywhere. The stress of combat, the unbearable heat, the people around them, the sight of the drug itself. Every environmental trigger reinforced the addiction loop. But when they returned home, to a quiet suburb in Ohio or a farm in Texas, the cues disappeared. Without the cue, the craving never activated. Without the craving, there was no response. And without the response, the loop collapsed. Your environment shapes your behavior infinitely more than your motivation, your intelligence, or your character ever will. Now look at your own life. The cue. You are working on something difficult, and you feel a slight pang of boredom or anxiety. The craving. You want relief. You want escape. You want the discomfort to disappear. The response. You pick up your phone. You open social media. The reward. A tiny dopamine hit that temporarily numbs the anxiety and distracts your mind. And your brain immediately records the pattern. Boredom equals phone. Stress equals junk food. Loneliness equals scrolling. Over time, the behavior becomes so deeply automated that it bypasses conscious thought entirely. You find yourself opening apps before you even realize your hand moved. That is not weakness. That is conditioning. If your phone is sitting face up beside you while you work, you are fighting a neurological battle your brain was never designed to win. You are the soldier still sitting in the war zone. If your kitchen is filled with processed junk food, you are forcing yourself to rely on willpower every single time stress appears. And willpower is a finite resource. It drains, it exhausts, it collapses under pressure. The people with the strongest self-control are usually not resisting temptation every second of the day. They simply design their environment so the right choice becomes easy, and the wrong choice becomes exhausting. They do not rise above human psychology, they work with it. If you want to master your habits, stop trying to master your mind. Master your room. This is the exact moment where most people give up. They clean up their environment, they start showing up consistently, they begin voting for their new identity, they read the books, they go to the gym for 3 exhausting weeks, they eat healthy, they stay disciplined, and then they step onto the scale, or they look into the mirror and they see absolutely no change. Nothing. No visible transformation, no dramatic breakthrough, no cinematic moment where life suddenly feels different. So they sit on the edge of their bed, exhausted, and think, what is the point? I'm suffering, I'm trying, and nothing is happening. I might as well go back to who I was. But this despair comes from a tragic misunderstanding of how progress actually works. Human beings are biologically wired to expect linear progress. We expect effort to create immediate, visible results. But the universe operates on compounding curves. To understand this, we need to look at the remarkable story of the British cycling team. For more than 100 years, British cyclists were considered failures on the world stage. Since 1908, they had won only a single Olympic gold medal, and in the entire history of the Tour de France, not one British cyclist had ever won the event. Their reputation became so poor that one major European bike manufacturer refused to sell bikes to them because they feared it would damage their brand image. Then, a man named Dave Brailsford was hired as performance director, and instead of demanding massive dramatic change, he focused on something almost laughably small: 1% improvements. He called it the aggregation of marginal gains. His philosophy was simple: If you improve every tiny part of the process by just 1%, the combined effect becomes extraordinary. So the team obsessed over microscopic details. They redesigned bike seats to be slightly more comfortable. They tested different massage gels to improve muscle recovery by tiny fractions. They rubbed alcohol onto bike tires for better grip in wet weather. They even hired a surgeon to teach cyclists the most effective way to wash their hands to avoid getting sick. And they discovered which pillows and mattresses created the best sleep, then transported them to every hotel during competitions. To outsiders, it looked ridiculous, obsessive, pointless, insignificant. But 5 years later, British cycling dominated the Olympics. Then they shattered records, and over the next decade, British riders won the Tour de France 6 separate times. This is the unbelievable power of tiny gains. Most transformation is invisible in the beginning. Imagine an ice cube sitting on a wooden table inside a freezing room. The temperature is 25 degrees. You slowly begin heating the room. 26 degrees, 27, 28. You are putting in effort. You are adding heat, but the ice cube does not change. 29, 30, 31. Still, nothing happens. To the outside observer, all your effort appears wasted. Then suddenly, the room reaches 32 degrees, and the ice begins to melt. 1 single degree, a shift no different than the degrees before it, yet it unlocked the transformation. Your habits work exactly the same way. You enter what James Clear calls the valley of disappointment. People quit because they cannot see progress, even while the transformation is already happening underneath the surface. The work is not wasted. The repetitions are not meaningless. The effort is not disappearing. It is being stored. Every workout, every page read, every distraction resisted. You are heating the room, and one day, without warning, the ice begins to melt. So how do we actually escape this cycle in 2026? How do we stop relying on temporary motivation, survive the valley of disappointment, and build a permanent, unshakable identity? Not through inspiration, not through giant declarations, and definitely not through trying to change your entire life overnight. You need a system, a ruthless, mechanical, repeatable system. No more dramatic promises on Sunday night. No more trying to become a completely different person by Monday morning. Here is your practical, step-by-step, 3-week habit reset protocol. Week 1, the friction phase. Your only goal for the next 7 days is to redesign your environment. You are not even allowed to focus on the habit itself yet. Take a lesson from Twyla Tharp, one of the greatest choreographers in modern history. She maintained an intense workout routine well into her later years. But interestingly, she did not focus on the workout itself. Her only habit was this: wake up, put on workout clothes, walk outside, get into a taxi, and tell the driver to take her to the gym. Once she entered the taxi, the workout became inevitable. She outsourced her willpower to the environment. This week, your mission is simple. Remove friction from the habits you want, and add friction to the habits destroying your life. If you want to train in the morning, lay your gym clothes beside your bed the night before. If you want to stop doom scrolling, do not rely on discipline. Leave your phone charger in another room. Let your phone die before midnight. Make distraction inconvenient. Do not focus on changing yourself yet. Focus on changing the room. Week 2, the micro-habit phase. Now we introduce action, but there is one rule. Make the habit impossibly small. If you want to read consistently, do not aim for 50 pages. Read 1 page, then stop. If you want to start writing, write 1 sentence. If you want to get in shape, do 2 push-ups. It sounds ridiculous. Your ego will hate this, because your ego craves dramatic transformation. But the point is not the physical result. The point is becoming the type of person who shows up. You are lowering the activation energy required to begin, and beginning is the hardest part of every habit. A habit must exist before it can improve. You cannot optimize something you never consistently do. Week 3, the identity phase. Now, you stop tracking outcomes entirely. Stop checking the scale. Stop obsessing over visible progress. Stop staring at the ice cube waiting for it to melt. Instead, track consistency. Get a large physical calendar and a red marker. This is known as the Seinfeld method. Every single day you complete your tiny habit, you place a giant red X on the calendar. After a few days, a chain begins to form, and your only mission becomes, do not break the chain, because every single red mark is undeniable proof of your new identity. Every X says, I am someone who shows up. You must prioritize consistency over intensity. Doing one push-up every day for a year is infinitely more powerful than doing 100 push-ups for 3 days and quitting forever. As you close this video and return to your own life, remember this final truth. Society is addicted to the illusion of overnight success. We are sold the fantasy that transformation happens through dramatic, cinematic moments. A sudden breakthrough, a massive epiphany, a perfect morning where everything changes forever. But real transformation is quieter than that. A peaceful, meaningful life is rarely built through explosive moments. It is built through repeated, ordinary days. It is built through tiny, invisible decisions, made consistently, long before anyone notices the results. Every page you read, every workout you complete, every distraction you resist, every small promise you keep to yourself, is a vote for the person you are becoming. And one day, almost without realizing it, you will look back at your old life and realize the ice has finally begun to melt.